not to be, that is the question. Whether 'tis nobler in the mind to suffer the slings and arrows of outrageous fortune, or by opposing end them. Setting Shakespeare to music is no easy task. His plays are wordy and often contain complex subplots. Many very successful composers have tried and failed to set his works to music. Even Verdi and Benjamin Britten both considered and eventually abandoned a setting of his King Lear. And Samuel Barber's setting of Antony and Cleopatra is considered one of his few failures. But there is one Shakespeare play that has been set perhaps more than any of his other plays, The Merry Wives of Windsor. Despite being one of Shakespeare's less regarded works, it has been set to music over 10 times. The Merry Wives of Windsor was written around 1597, and it features an old and somewhat ridiculous knight, Sir John Falstaff, whom Shakespeare first introduced in his Henry IV, parts 1 and 2. Now, there is some conjecture that Queen Elizabeth herself commanded Shakespeare to write a play about her favorite knight in love, and that the play be completed in 14 days. So it is possible that some of the play's problem come from a hastily completed script. So what is it about this imperfect play that lends itself so perfectly to operatic settings? Well, let's check in with our Shakespeare expert and find out. Hello, Lorenzo. How are you?
Hello, Catherine. How you doing?
I'm so happy to welcome you to our Shakespeare show. You are the chair of MFA Theater Contemporary Performance at Naropa University in Boulder, Colorado. And this is a nice callback. You are a founding member of the Independent Shakespeare Company here in Los Angeles. And we had Melissa Chalsma as one of our guests as well. So welcome.
Oh, well, thank you. Thank you so much. It's a great honor. And it's definitely a great honor because you're going to have me talk about one of my favorite characters in all of Shakespeare, which is Falstaff.
Perfect. Great. You can enlighten us on this night. So the main play we're talking about is Merry Wives, and of course the opera, Verdi's operatic setting of Falstaff. But Merry Wives has been set so many times to music, over 10 times. And I'm wondering, what is it about this play that we like so much for opera, when I've read that there's some criticism of Merry Wives of Windsor as a play? And what's the criticism on this play?
Well, I think the biggest criticism about the play is that this Falstaff is mostly in the service of the plot. So it's not this great Falstaff, this sagacious, intelligent, witty, vital person that we see in the Henry IV plays. But what's curious is that I think the opera does try to restore that, The opera, Verdi does try to restore that because he brings some of particularly that speech about honor that Falstaff has in the beginning of the opera, which is, of course, famous in the Henry IV plays. He's just this radiant, alive, commissioner of life, and in the Merry Wives, he's more just kind of like this reputable knight, So he's not that philosophical in the Merry Wives, and I think that's the biggest criticism the play holds.
Can you talk about the rumor that Queen Elizabeth ordered Shakespeare to write a play about Falstaff in love because she loved the character so much?
Yeah, well, that's traditionally, the belief that the Queen Elizabeth commissioned the play because she loved Falstaff and she wanted to see him in love. And that's sort of a story that started sometime around the 18th century. Now, I don't want to dismiss it. It might be true that indeed Elizabeth wanted to see Falstaff in love. But the play was most likely commissioned by the second Lord of Hundson, who was the Lord Chamberlain of Elizabeth, who happened to be the patron of Shakespeare's company. And the Lord Chamberlain had been awarded the honor of being a Knight of the Garter.
Can you talk about how many of Shakespeare's plays that we see are often set not in England? They're set in Verona, like Romeo and Juliet,
sure.
or Venice, or Athens. And then we have this play, Merry Wives of Windsor, that is not only in England, but specifically in Windsor. Is that a comment on British society, or why is it important that Shakespeare sets this play in England?
Well, I think, like I say, I think if indeed the play was commissioned for this occasion of the Knights of the Garter, you know, Windsor Castle and the town of Windsor is well known to people at that time because of that, and the topography of the town figures in the play. But you're right. What is unique about this play is that he definitely, you know, places it in this well-known English town, and it is a play about the ordinary middle class of England. Something about this play, and I think that Verdi chose it to be his last play. He writes it's his last play, right? And he writes it as he's an old man, and he just wants to have fun. I think part of it. But also the thing about this play, it's about also, as we talk about justice and peace, and there's no peace without justice, you know, it's about, I think, about a different kind of justice that's not necessarily this outrageous punitive justice, but it's justice about restoring the goodness in the midst of us. And so in that sense, it's a great play because I think it ends with that. It ends with restoring the goodness among us.
I love that. Thank you. That's beautiful.
Thank you.
I appreciate it so much. I can't wait for you to see the episode, and I thank you so much for your wisdom.
Oh, sure. Now, in terms of goodness, now let's hear you sing.
All right, I'll do my best. Thanks, Lorenzo.
Thank you.
Bye. With the success of Otello behind him, Verdi commented,
"After having relentlessly massacred with so many heroes and heroines, I have at the last the right to laugh a little."
At this point, he had completed 27 operas, only one of which was a comedy, and not a very successful one at that. He confessed his comedic yearnings to his librettist for Otello, Arrigo Boito. Boito went off in secret and began work on the libretto for Falstaff, which he based on Merry Wives. Now, to make the play work better, he tightened the action and borrowed some of Falstaff's monologues from the Henry IV plays, giving more depth to the title character. Falstaff premiered in Milan in 1893, and even though it was highly anticipated at the time, it languished somewhat after its premiere. It wasn't until Arturo Toscanini revived it in the late 1890s that it found its place in the operatic canon. One of the things that makes Falstaff unique among Verdi's works is the change in his compositional style. He abandoned the standard operatic set pieces for a through-composed style that follows the action. This took some opera lovers aback. Where are our favorite arias, they wondered. Now, for example, the character of Alice, or Alice Ford, sings kind of the title aria, Gaie comari di Windsor, Merry Wives of Windsor, as she prepares with her lady friends to play a trick on the knight. Now, in this case, Verdi gives her what we call an arietta, a little aria, and it's quick and bubbly, sort of like popping the cork on a bottle of champagne. Gaie comari di Windsor, la danza, la risata sonora, l'alta risata che scoppi, che scherza, che sfega ramata di dardi disperta. Gaie comari, festosa, brigata, solito viso, spunti sorriso, spende del riso la cota frugale, ma bella, ma bella, c'è d'aria di gioia. may have pushed the boundaries with some of his compositional techniques in Falstaff, but he still knew when it was time for a satisfying showpiece aria. He gave 4 of his lead characters major arias in Falstaff, one of the most memorable of which is sung by Nanetta, the beautiful daughter of Alice Ford. The merry wives lure Falstaff into the forest at midnight and then dress up as fairies to torture and mock him. They crown Nanetta the queen of the fairies in a little nod to A Midsummer Night's Dream. Thanks for joining me again to explore more of Shakespeare's brilliance and music. Next episode, we're going to return to A Midsummer Night's Dream with Benjamin Britten's brilliant and faithful setting of the play. I'm Katherine Powers. I'll see you next time for another episode of Shakespeare Sings.